Basil
II was unlucky. Too occupied with governmental affairs, he was unable to prepare a worthy successor, and the throne passed to his natural brother, Constantine VIII. When the new emperor began to feel free, powerful, and fabulously wealthy, he dedicated himself not to governmental affairs, but rather to ecstatic daydreams about accomplishments and glory which were supposed to eclipse those of his brother. The results were sorrowful. Under the aegis of the dreamer in porphyry, the cynical ruling elite quickly lost the obedience and discipline cultivated by Basil II, and immersed themselves in power struggles with renewed vigor. Although the oligarchs quickly achieved their aim, it came with a price. If Basil II punished insubordination by confiscation of property, or in extreme cases by blinding, a punishment not uncommon during the Middle Ages, his successor, the hysterical Constantine, during fits of anger, castrated half of his contemporary Byzantine administrative elite. Furthermore, his extravagance eclipsed even that of one of the most dissolute emperors of the country's period of decline, whose nickname was the Drunkard, and like him, in a state of inebriation, entertained the rabble at the city hippodrome, 3 times larger than this Roman Colosseum. The next successor also failed to fulfill expectations. The vertical central power structure began to collapse. The result of a new uprising amongst the clans and elite, and the continual reshifting of property was predictably deplorable. Within 50 years, the empire found itself on the brink of destruction. The large stabilizing fund in the hands of inept sovereigns caused more harm than good. This money gained without effort began to work against the country by corrupting society. The same historian, Michael Psellos, remarked bitterly that the empire grew sick from the misuse and plunder of this money set aside by Basil. The government's body, he wrote, became bloated. Some were gloated with money, others were stuffed to the gills with ranks, and their lifestyle became unhealthy and destructive. The succession of power was a matter of life and death for the empire. When there is stability in succession and development, the country has a future. Without stability, collapse. But the people did not fully understand this and kept demanding various changes. Opportunists and runaway oligarchs also played on these popular moves. They would usually hide somewhere abroad and support various intrigues with the aim of overthrowing this or that emperor who did not suit them, providing for their own man and new reassignments of property. Such an individual was a certain Bessarion, a mediocre scholar, unprincipled politician, and ingenious intriguer of the 15th century who fled Byzantium for Rome and received there political asylum. Bessarion coordinated the entire opposition in Constantinople and caused no small headache to the government. He went on further to become a Catholic cardinal. He bought himself a house in Rome. After his death, his Western protectors even named a small street on the edge of town after him. Another serious and incurable disease, never before a problem in Byzantium, also developed: the question of nationality. The fact of the matter is that nationality problems in Byzantium really had not existed for many centuries, as the historical, lawful descendants of ancient Rome, which was destroyed by barbarians in the 5th century, the inhabitants of Byzantium called themselves Romans. In a vast empire divided into many nationalities, there was one faith, Orthodox Christianity. The Byzantines literally fulfilled the Christian teaching of a new humanity living in a divine spirit, where there is neither Greek, nor Jew, nor Scyth, as Apostle Paul wrote. This hope preserved the country from the destructive storm of ethnic conflict. It was enough for any pagan or foreigner to accept the Orthodox faith and confirm it in deed in order to become a full member of society. On the Byzantine throne, for example, were almost as many Armenians as there were Greeks. There were also citizens of Syrian, Arabian, Slavic, and Germanic origin. Amongst the higher ranks of government were representatives of all peoples in the empire. The main requirements were their competence and dedication to the Orthodox faith. This provided Byzantine civilization with incomparable cultural wealth. The only foreign elements for the Byzantines were people who were strange to Orthodox morals and to the ancient Byzantine culture and perception of the world. For example, coarse, ignorant, money-grubbing Western Europeans of the time were considered barbarian by the Romans. Emperor Constantine VII, the purple-born, instructed his son when choosing a bride, "Inasmuch as every nation has its own traditions, laws, and customs, one should unite in matrimony only with one from amongst his own people." In order to understand the emperor's thoughts correctly, we must recall that his great-grandfather was a Scandinavian by the name of Inger. His grandfather was the son of an Armenian man and Slavic woman from Macedonia. His wife was the daughter of an Armenian man and a Greek woman, and his daughter-in-law was the daughter of an Italian king. His granddaughter Anna became the wife of Russian Prince Vladimir just after the latter was baptized. The very idea of a nation was actually a European concept, which later in Byzantium evolved into the idea of their own national superiority, or more precisely, of that of the Greeks around whom Byzantium had grown. Europeans lived in smaller states, built upon ethnic principles, for example, France, Germanic countries, and Italian republics. National custom was good and correct for them, but the fact of the matter was that Byzantium was not an ethnic state, but rather a multinational empire, and this was an essential difference. For 100 years, the Byzantines warred with this temptation and did not allow themselves to be broken. "We are all Romans, Orthodox citizens of the new Rome," they proclaimed. It must be noted that all this unfolded at the very beginning of the epoch called by historians the Renaissance, the worldwide creation of a nationalistic Hellenic Greek pagan ideal. It was understandably difficult for the Greeks not to be tempted by this Western European Renaissance and the European fascination with the culture of their great ancient Greek ancestors. The first to give in were the intelligentsia. The enlightened Byzantines began to sense their Greekness. Nationalistic movements began, then the denial of Christian traditions, and finally, during the reign of Paleologi, the imperial ideal gave way to a narrow, ethnical Greek nationalism. However, this betrayal of the imperial ideal was costly. The nationalistic fever tore the empire apart and was then quickly swallowed up by the neighboring Muslim empire.